of this webinar is all about discovering the best places to go in London. London is a fascinating city. It really is one of those places where you can be yourself and do whatever activity you want to do. So we're going to give you loads of tips today on making friends, what to do, where to hang out, places to go. So really you can make informed choices, because make the right decision in London, you'll have a fantastic time. Make the wrong decision, for example, in the accommodation you choose, or what you choose to do, or how you start your time when you start as a student, and you won't enjoy yourself. So today we're going to be a very upbeat, positive session, giving you loads of tips and advice, but also trying to tell you some of the things what not to do. And really, to have a great time in any city, the platform for that is a great place to live. So we're going to round up probably 5–10 minutes talking about accommodation. We've had some questions coming from people about where to live, how to find a place in London, so we're going to cover those off as well. Okay. Now, we're very fast-paced. Both myself and Steph are extremely passionate about London. We may at times talk quite quickly. So really, to get the most out of my webinar, I need your full attention. It's only 30 minutes long. So please, could you turn off your emails, any web browser you might have up. Get your pen and paper ready, because it's going to be packed full of advice. Okay, and just give this your full attention. It will be really worth your while. Okay. Now, how am I got the authority to talk about having the best time in London for students? Well, first of all, I've helped thousands of students find accommodation in London. I deal with students on a daily basis. I run my own boutique accommodation agency called London Nest. And I myself am a Londoner. I was born in London, I grew up inside London, and I currently live in London. So I feel that I'm able to talk about the topic, okay? And Steph, we're very lucky to have Steph joining us today. In fact, I'm going to hand over in a second to her. Steph is actually a former student of LCA Business School. She just recently qualified, so only, what must be, 4 or 5 months ago. So she knows everything about life in London. LCA is actually located right in the heart of the city. So she knows all about being a student. And she's actually now an academic officer. So she's one of the few people probably in London that can see both from the insight of a student, but also somebody working in a college or university dealing with students, again, on a daily basis. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Steph, who's going to tell you all about how to have the time of your life in London. Steph, over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I'll just talk about why I chose London as my city to study in. So I've always been really interested in business. My parents both worked in the city, so that was a real motivator. And I mean, studying in London and being so close really drives you to want to end up being there. And actually from LCA you can look out, I mean, you guys can see from this picture, you can look out over onto the city, which is such a great motivator when you're studying. So I've only got a few minutes to tell you just some of the great places we've been when we were students here. So the great thing about London is just the vast range of activities. No matter what you're feeling, what you want to do, there'll always be somewhere, some place you can go. So if you fancy a big night out, Fabric is just down the road from LCA, and this was actually one of the first nights out I went to with all my uni friends. It's a huge club, really good fun. If you're feeling more of a relaxed, quiet drink, there's a place, again, just down the road from here called Kanaloa. Which is really cool. It's all themed, Caribbean, drink cocktails. It's a really fun place. And yeah, just around Holborn, Farringdon, there's loads of really cool clubs. And also, if you're not feeling like alcohol is the one for you, you can also go to Bounce, which is just down the road in Holborn. You can play ping pong, and actually have the Olympic table there from the London 2012 Games. Which you can play on, which is really cool. And Also, Smithfield's just down the road is urban golf, so you can play a round of golf on the simulator there, which are actually really fun, even if you've never played golf before. So really, making friends is such a huge part of university, and Freshers Week at orientation is a great place to start. So chat to everyone, get involved with any clubs or societies, whether it's sport or religious clubs. There'll be so much on, and it really, really pays to get involved, and it's such a great way to make friends. Another great thing about London is so multicultural. I mean, you can see from this pie chart, that's sort of a rough estimate of where the students from LCA are, but it represents London quite well, and you really end up with such a diverse range of friends, and that's a great part of London. So another really great tip is getting to know the area. For anyone who's new to London, it can seem quite a small place, but in fact it's actually quite vast, and it really pays to get to know. So everything will be close by, as London has whatever you need within a mile, but it definitely pays to explore and get to know your area and where everything is. Another thing is the tube system, so you're never far away from a tube, and it's a great and easy way to get around. However, not always completely 100% reliable, so it does always pay to get to know alternative routes, so for example where to get your buses from, where to get your taxis from. I'm sure there's hundreds of apps you can download which will also really help. Also, always pays to leave a few minutes early. You don't want to miss that first lecture. So yeah, so always try and leave a little bit earlier. And I'm going to hand it back to James.
Yeah. So just before because I'm going to talk to people a little bit about the accommodation, but just ask you a couple of questions. So what would you say then would be your biggest tip? Because we've got people on the webinar today that are either thinking of just signed up to do a course here in London. What would be your advice for people arriving into London?
So my main tip would definitely be to just get involved, get stuck in. Don't be shy, make friends. London's such a great place to explore, and you should really just get involved with everything, get stuck in.
That's very good advice. And you're obviously dealing a lot with students. What are the kind of main concerns, the kind of questions that people have that are thinking about studying in London? What are their concerns?
Mostly to do with accommodation. I mean, most people coming to LCA in particular are coming from overseas, so accommodation is such a key part of your studying experience, so it really pays to get that right.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, people are always worried about where they're going to be. Their parents, also family members, want to know where their sons and daughters are. So maybe that leads us on very, very well to the next section, which is all about making informed choices. Living in London can be very exciting. I myself, having grown up here, but also after being a student living in the city, there's so many things you can do, as Steph's covered off. But in reality, if you don't have good accommodation, then unfortunately you're likely to have a bad time when you're here. So to help you find a great place to live, here are my kind of top 4 tips. First of all, there are lots of accommodation options. Probably the most popular for students would be house shares or student residences. A house share, for those that aren't familiar, would be a place where you're sharing with other students, typically a flat of 3 or 4 bedrooms and a house of anything up from there, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms. Or a student residence where you're typically given your own single room, often with an ensuite bathroom. But there are other options to consider too. I mean, a popular option is homestay, where you might lodge with a family. This gives you a great insight into British culture. You'll typically be living with a family, probably in zone 3 or 4, so be a little bit of a distance to travel, but you get to participate in family life. This is a particularly good option for the younger people. Some people are choosing to stay in a hostel or even a hotel for the first couple of weeks. A big piece of advice I'd say is it's good to see the place you're going to be living before you book up. So it's often many people either come themselves or they'll come with a family member, they'll stay in a hotel or a hostel for the first couple of weeks, and then they'll choose one of the other options. So consider all the options. You need to think what's best for you. We're going to come on to it later, but if you do have any specific questions or what might be the best option for you, I'd be more than happy to set up a one-to-one chat over the telephone and we could discuss them. Second tip is to do with zones and location. London is a little bit like an onion. You've got zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 as you go out. People can tend to be obsessed with what zone. I'm sat now currently in the LCA offices. We're right in the heart of the city in zone 1, but of course that tends to be where the accommodation is the most expensive. So don't get obsessed with what is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. It's quite normal to travel in London at least half an hour. I don't know how long does it take you, Steph, to get into here?
Yeah, half an hour.
Half an hour, yeah. So that's quite typical. I myself, it took me 40 minutes to get here. Some people may even travel an hour. So the best thing is to not be obsessed about what zone you're in, but more to see, as Steph was talking about earlier, being on the same underground line, minimizing the number of changes, looking at alternative forms of transport. There's a brilliant bus network in London, and often you wouldn't need to make a change. There are other alternative routes. For example, cycling is getting more and more popular, lots of cycle routes. So you need to just have a think before you just book up your places. How could I get from this accommodation to where I'm studying? So no matter where you study, do some research first. Also consider the cost of living. It is more expensive living in the centre. Food tends to be more expensive. Certainly going out can be more expensive as well, unfortunately. So if you want to go to like a discount supermarket like Lidl or Aldi or Asda, for example, they're a lot easier to find them in the further out zones, and generally your typical day-to-day items tend to be cheaper. So that's a definite advantage. Also need to think about what's value for money. For me, if you want to, probably most students, given the choice, would like to be right in the heart of the centre, within walking distance from where they're studying, in their own studio, preferably with 1 bedroom, sometimes with 2, and have their own private bathroom. Unfortunately, that's going to set you back in a student residence at least £350. For your own 1-bedroom flat in the centre could easily be £400 or £500. So you've got to think, is that really the best value for money when you could be in a shared flat, still in zone 1, and paying only £185 a week, and all you've got to do is just share a bathroom with maybe 3 or 4 other people. So you need to weigh up what's best for you before you rush in. So they're my tips. In terms of things to avoid in terms of mistakes is do your research. You know, don't rush in. Don't just go with the first place. Do your research about where you want to live, the areas. Talk to maybe other students. Most university and colleges have forums or they have a Facebook page. Talk to other students to get their advice. I know at LCA, for example, I think you have a Facebook page, don't you?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah, students can do. Then prioritize. Work out what's the most important thing for you. Is the most important thing having a private bathroom, for example, or is the most important thing being walking distance? And then you'll be able to make a decision, because unfortunately finding that exact perfect place is always very, very difficult. The London market moves extremely quickly, so you need to have done your research. You need to work out what you want before you rush it. Thirdly is be prepared. Typically, if you are going to sign up for an academic year or a year, a landlord's going to want, if you have a UK guarantor, they probably want 2 to 3 months rent as a deposit potentially, certainly at least 1 month. If you don't have a UK guarantor, you could well be in for 6 months rent up front. Okay, so you need to be prepared. You need to do your sums beforehand. If you're being financed on a grant, or maybe your parents are helping you, you need to discuss the items with them so you've got the money ready, because As I said, the London market does move very quickly, and the worst thing would be to find a place of your dreams round the corner and then suddenly you can't pay for it. So be prepared. And finally, I would say check out your landlord. There are lots of websites where you can find places online, but before you book up, my real recommendation would be first to see the place. If you can't see the place before you sign up, then check who the landlord is and ideally be booking through a reputable agent. That gives you a lot more security. Unfortunately, there are occasionally a few scams where people will get you to sign up, send money, perhaps through Western Union or bank transfer, and then you get there and the place is not what you expected, and you've now gone and spent 6 months rent. So be very careful. And so if you can't come over for a few days, maybe staying with a friend, that's another great tip to save some money. Stay with a friend you might know in London, and then look around the places and see for yourself. If you can't do that, then either minimize the deposit and try to check out who your landlord is beforehand. Okay? Now, how are we doing for time? So here's just a few photos of just the type of places that you may want to consider. Here is a typical house share in London. This is a place up in Finsbury Park, which is great if you're studying in the centre of London, like somewhere like LCA. You could be in within about 10-15 minutes on the Underground. This is a student residence. So you can see here, typically you've got your own private bed here. You've got a shower room that's just off the picture. You've got your own kitchen there as well. So everything's very compact. These places don't tend to be very big, so this again comes back to your priorities. You'd have your own kitchen, you don't have your own shower, which is great, but it doesn't tend to be that sociable. You're cooking on your own, you're not sharing the space with anyone, and really one of the best things when you're studying abroad is meeting other people, as Steph was saying. And sometimes if you're in a residence, it can be a little limiting, so you need to have a little think about this. I've taken this photo is actually one of our place at London Nest. This is what we call a house of multiple occupancy, where there's, I think, 10 bedrooms in the same place. So there's a really big sociable area, 3 kitchens there where students can hang out together, cook together, chat together, and then go out together and really have the time of their lives. Nice kind of social area, okay? And this is like a typical room that you would find in a house share. So again, it is quite basic. I think it's fair to say that if you're coming from certainly outside of Europe, but even from Europe itself, what you can get for your money in London is no way the same as you might be able to in your own home country. So you have to be quite realistic, especially with the pound being quite strong at the moment. But this is a kind of typical nice room that you would find in kind of Zone 2, Zone 3 of London. Okay. Now, I'm going to try now, I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but I'm going to try and have a little chat to speak to anyone. If not, Steph, I'm sure, may have some questions for me, or I'll have some questions for her. So let me see if I can ask, here's one person. Let me see if I can speak to Susanna. She has her. Susanna, can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Hello there.
Great. How are you?
Have any? I'm fine, thanks. Do you have any questions, Susanna, for either Steph or myself?
No, I just found it really interesting because I'm working in a online agency, and we sell language courses abroad. So our main destination is London. So yeah, I think it's yeah, I will share this information with the rest of my team. So yeah, maybe they will share it with our potential clients as well.
Great. Okay, Susanna. Well, I tell you, it would be great to talk to you offline off the webinar. But can I ask a question to you then, because it might be useful for the rest of the people on the call. What are the main concerns your students have when they're heading to London? Do you find
accommodation?
Okay. Well, what is it about the accommodation?
Yeah, you have already explained, but you know, yeah, people think, because maybe some people doesn't travel so often, so they don't know the quality, the standard quality for the accommodations in London. Once you have been there, or if you travel a lot, you can already expect something that is not really high quality for even if the price is quite expensive. But anyway, we try to let our clients know in advance that even if the price is for an accommodation in London is usually quite expensive, the standard is not that high. For example, for Spanish people, Italian people, Latin American people, because we work with many nationalities, so we work with students from all over the world. So for some nationalities, it's a bit harder to explain that if they are going to pay a big amount of money, they will not have that accommodation that they expect in another country.
Okay, thank you very much, Susanna. That's really very helpful. And I'll drop you a line after the event. Okay, but thank you for your.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Just going to mute you now. Thank you for that. Well, that was very fascinating. Thank you for Susanna. I think that's a very good tip she's given everyone, is that in reality you do need to reset your expectations, and it very much comes back to doing your research before you come to London. London truly is a very exciting place to be. For me, the one thing I would add to what Steph was saying earlier is a place where you can really feel free. If you're into rock music, if you're into Jamaican music, if you're into jazz, if you're into opera, you can do it in London. If you're into sports, be it big obviously popular sports like watching Premiership football or playing football, or into more niche activities, essentially London has it. If you're into the arts, we have world-class galleries here, but also there's lots of events hanging around, like areas like Shoreditch, which I can just see out my window from here, where there's lots of communities for artists. So whatever you're into, wherever you're from, whatever your background is, and maybe in your country you have an interest but that you don't have many people in the same kind of circle, you will be able to find it in London. So I think that's one of the greatest things about the city. And the second thing I'd say is that when you choose your school, I'd say is where is the school or university going to be located where you're going to, and from there can that be a great base for you. If you're coming to London, there's nothing better than being right in the heart of London for your actual course. Like somewhere, for example, like LCA, but then maybe living a little bit further out so you can enjoy the communities and towns that London has, so you can have a nice mix. So try to incorporate both that when you make your choice. Now, Steph and I have a final commitment to you moving forward. Okay, what we offer to you is, if you would like, you can book your free one-to-one session with us. Okay, we will send an email to the people that have been on the webinar today. It's been fantastic to see the turnout, so thank you very much everyone for being there. So our commitment to you is, if you would like, you can book your free session with us. Okay, and our commitment from me and from Steph is it will give you 15 minutes of extremely focused, razor-sharp, pinpointed help about whatever you're looking for. So whether that be places to go, advice, Steph I'm sure knows a lot about all the places around here where to go, but also if it's about accommodation, we'll be happy to help. So if you've got any questions, book a one-to-one session with us after the call, and we can speak to you either later today or in the next couple of days, and we'd be happy to talk through with you. Thank you very much. We're always running out of time. Sorry that was so quick to everyone. Thank you very much. Here are our contact details, okay, for both London Nest and for LCA. And thank you very much for attending. And it's goodbye from me.
And bye from me.